Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 855, it's just me this week. Richard's away in Germany. Gary's actually sick this week, so I just thought I'd do the show on my own this week, just a short show, because Microsoft have released a new update for Windows 11, which I want to talk about. So all that's coming up. So welcome to this week's show. So this will be a bit of a shorter show this week because there's just a few things I wanted to go through. And the first one is talking about Windows 11 22H2. So that's the first full update that's come out for Windows 11, and that will be with us later this year. I'll talk about that specifically when later in the show. But the story that's come out this week is that Windows 11 22H2 has been released to Windows insiders on the release preview channel. So it's been tested in the beta channel for a few months now, and on dev for a while, and then it goes to dev, and beta was synced up for a while. Dev's gone off of doing its own thing now, and new features, and the beta channel's had it for a while, but now we've actually got this available for Windows insiders on release preview. It's what Microsoft call it's available for seekers. So what that means is if you go into Windows Update, into Settings, Windows Update, you'll see it as an optional update says Windows 11 version 22H2 is available, and then you can click on download and that'll install the update. It's a full build update, so 4 gig. So download and a reboot process, and then you'll have 22H2, and I'll tell you a bit more about what's in 22H2 shortly. It's also been released to Windows Insider for business as well. So this is to get that build tested before it goes out to Windows users, and my guess is it's about September that this will get released, maybe a bit sooner, but normally it's September, October when Microsoft will release these updates. It's already finished, and build 22621 is what it's currently being run for release preview now and beta channel. So that's the build number, and that came out in May. But Microsoft can then ship patches and things like that if there's any issues with it, so they do cumulative upgrades to that. I've got one of the builds, I've got it installing on my virtual machine, and I've had it installed on my Surface laptop for some time, and I know we talked about it on previous shows, and that's working fine. So I've had no major issues to it, and it is a nice update as well. I've got a separate video showing all the details on what's actually new in this update, but I'll briefly mention it now. So it's like I said, it's a full build that comes down. You've got things like start menu folders. So start menu. So on the start menu, you can create a folder, and then you can put apps in it. So you just drag them on top of each other, and it creates a folder. It's quite good for optimizing your layout, and you can also customize it as well. So you can choose to have more pins or more recommendations, or the default as well, which you can't do currently on the standard version. There's also gestures as well. You can do swipe left and right. There's things like the volume flyout has been updated. It's Windows 11 style now, across the bottom, curved rather than the old Windows 8 square one. There's improved windowing, especially for dragging and dropping, and you get the layouts, the snap layouts. File Explorer has been improved now. Quick access renamed to Home, and you've got more integration with services like OneDrive and SharePoint on there. One of the things that a lot of people ask for is Taskbar Improvements, and that is drag and drop. So if you've got say you've got a picture that you want to put into a Word document, the picture's on your desktop, and you can drag that picture down to the taskbar where Word is, release it, and it brings up Word and puts that image into Word. Whereas on the standard builder, the release version, it doesn't do that. You can't do any drag and drop in. Of course, Windows 10 did that, so a lot of people missed that, so they've brought that back. There's things like Task Manager has improved. It's now it supports dark mode, and it's got a Windows 11 look and feel. There's things like Windows Spotlight. There's live captions. That's actually pretty live captions. So this will give you live captions to any audio going through the sound card. So you can watch a YouTube video, you could be on a Teams call, or anything where it's picking up audio, and it will actually give you live captions. So if you're sort of hearing impaired or just can't use audio wherever you are, then that's actually a really good option as well. And something else as well is you can actually do full voice control, and I'm going to do a separate video of that as well, so keep an eye out that on the YouTube channel. You can actually say like open Windows and click start. You can say you click OK, that kind of thing. But you can also zone the screen, and you can say, you know, go to layout zone 4 and then zoom in and zoom out and click things. It's a really impressive system of the voice control. So I've got a separate video of that. So like when we get it, well, we'll have to wait and see. I suspect like I said, September time. It will come down via Windows Update, just as it's doing now, and you'll also get the Microsoft Media Creation tool if you manually want to apply it. But I found it pretty stable. There's not many issues with it. We've been talking about this now for some time. This build, and like I said, we've even had this actual 22621 since May. So it's been pretty stable, but I do like this update. It's well worth applying when that comes out if your device supports that. So keep an eye out for that. I mentioned that the dev channel has gone off and it's getting new features now. Well, the last few builds actually haven't had a huge amount of features. So last week we got 25131 for Windows Insiders on the dev channel, and that really only included an updated Microsoft Store, and the store, as well as supporting ARM64 native for the first time, so it's going to be much better on a Surface Pro X, something like that. It also remembers, or it knows if you've got an app open. So currently, if you're in a UWP or a Microsoft Store app, it gets an update. When you click on update, it downloads, closes the app, and reopens again. Bit inconvenient if you're working on something, so it doesn't do that anymore. It can update it later. And there's some improvement of the pop-up experience, and it's supposed to be faster and everything else. The rest of the stuff with the build was actually fairly minor. There were some fixes, certainly with AMD processors. It would bug check or green screen crash. And if you had secondary accounts on the PC, there was some issues with it not being able to install the build, and they say that's been fixed. So I think by secondary account, it means if you're switching accounts, not just having multiple Microsoft accounts, because I've got multiple Microsoft accounts and not seen that issue at all. They've also fixed some issues with File Explorer and browsing folders with lots of MKV files, and the search improvements and fixes and things like that. So there's still some known issues. Surface Pro X might hit a black screen when attempt to resume from hibernate, so you'd have to power recycle it to get it back on. So you may want to wait if you've got a Pro X, but then you might want those Windows Store features. Although I think they may come through without having this build, because the store isn't tied to the build; it's just tied to the dev channel. And they're investigating some issues of the start menu isn't working for some people. I haven't seen any of those issues, and of course there's the old anti-cheat issue as well. So I haven't seen any issues. I could run it on my Surface Go, the original Surface Go, and there's been no issues with that at all. So we talked about Surface Go last week, or the Surface Go laptop. Got some more details on that. So we talked last week. We've got the price, $599, £529 for the 4 gig version, 128 gig SSD. Got rid of the EMC version. I think it's $749 for the 256 gig one. We talked about Windows Hello. It does have Windows Hello in terms of fingerprint reader on the power button, so it doesn't use the camera one like you would on a Surface laptop or a Surface Go or Laptop Studio, but it does have a fingerprint reader built into the keyboard, which is pretty good. And it does come with some nice colours as well: sage, ice blue, sandstone, and platinum. I quite like the sage. That's the new colour, but although I stick to the platinum for mine, I prefer that colour. I think the Surface Laptop Go 2 looks a really nice device, actually. I think that's going to be you're paying a premium for the device being a Surface, but it's still not the most expensive Surface out there, and it's a nice complete device, decent specs. You could probably get similar specs for less money, or maybe for the same money get slightly better specs if you looked at some of the other OEMs like HP or Acer, because you're paying for the Surface brand. But I like the Surface brand. I like my Surface devices. I'm definitely thinking about this to replace my wife's laptop Surface Pro 4, which has got this terrible video shudder issue now when it gets warm. So I think that would be a fairly suitable device to swap that out for. Actually, I think it's a nice device. Actually, quite happy with one of those myself. So I'll stick to the laptop studio for now. So yeah, nice looking device. Another device that, or something else that came out this week that we really need our resident Apple guy to talk about is the Apple have announced the M2 processor for the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, the 13-inch MacBook Pro. So Richard talks quite a lot about the M1 processor running Windows. He runs the ARM version of Windows on that, on his Mac with the M1 processor. Now they've announced the M2, so it's a couple of years since the M1 was released, and this is 8-core, supposed to be the GPU's 10 cores opposed to 8 on the M1. There's more memory, improved videos and things like that. So yeah, the M2 is successor to the M1 chip. It's good, and I'll be interested to see how well that runs Windows. We'll see, talk to Richard next week and find out about that. But I know he likes running the M1 processor or Windows on the M1 processor, and that's the ARM version of Windows. So this previous build that we've just been talking about, that would actually be pretty good, because that would be the there's some improvements on there that would be pretty good for him. So we'll see what he says about that next week as well. Something else I mentioned last week, I don't remember, I mentioned about I had done a cover version of the Blade Runner soundtrack, the end titles, and I didn't put that on the end of the show last week, so thanks for the feedback on that. But interestingly, I got a copyright message from YouTube on that video saying that it detected it was a version of the Blade Runner soundtrack, which I think is pretty impressive from their algorithm to be able to pick that up, because I recorded it completely from scratch, didn't use any samples. I made the sequence patterns, the sounds, the special effects. I programmed all those in, the lead sounds. I made those to an analog synth. So the algorithm has detected those pretty well. So I'm interested to find out how they can do that, because it's not a like for like sample. It's actually got some, obviously detecting the melody, maybe the rhythm patterns, everything. That's a pretty impressive algorithm it's got there. So it's not the original, it's a copy, but it knows that what track it is. So I was quite impressed with that. So I will play out with some music this week. Actually, I'm going to play out with one called Slow Afternoon, which is an original, so there will be no copyright claims on that one. And that was recorded with just an analog synth called Mini Logue, which is a relatively recent analog synth, and a Roland TR-505 drum machine, an old Roland TR-505, 1985, I think it came out, and it's still working really well, actually. So that's a nice mellow track, that kind of Stranger Things mellow stuff that I've been working on recently. So have a listen to that. It'd be great to get some feedback. We've not had any listener feedback for some time as well, so you can email me, ian@religionslifestyle.com. I'm at iStixon on Twitter if you want to get in touch. Next week we'll be back with Richard and Gary. We've got some guests coming up as well on future shows, which I'm really looking forward to. If you've got any suggestions for guests, or indeed you want to come on the show and talk about your experiences with Windows, with smart devices, whatever the stuff we like to talk about, EVs, anything, let me know, because we're always interested in getting guests on the show. I also want to mention as well, if you're not a member of the Windows Insider program, you can join that, and I haven't got an actual link that I can give you that I think tracks links from the show to that as well. So I don't get any revenue from it, but it's just nice metrics. So if you wanted to join the Windows Insider, if you're not already a Windows Insider, you can follow the link on the show notes. Go and sign up there, become a Windows Insider, and then you can choose where to install those builds from. You don't have to actually install a preview build at all. You can just join the Insider program. But then on one of your devices, if you've got a spare device, you can install it. If you install the release preview, you're going to get the new 22H2 build before general Windows users, which is nice as well. And it's finished because that release preview is the last ring that it hits before, last channel it hits before release. So if you want to try out 22H2 but don't want to risk a device, then release preview is really good for that. Beta is a bit more risky. But the most risk is the dev channel one, because that gets frequent builds. So you get a build every week on that with features that may not hit release. At the moment, there's a Bing search bar it being tested, and it may never see the light of day in general release. But you're testing stuff that Microsoft's using the telemetry to test and to see how they roll that out, or if they roll it out at all. So you get to choose between those 3 channels. So it's well worth having a look at. So anyway, follow the link on the show notes and have a look at signing up, join the Windows Inside program, and help test Windows and file feedback and help improve Windows. So I think that's just about it this week. It was a short show, but I just wanted to tell you about 22H2, and we'll be back with the gang next week. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.